Hey everyone, welcome back to the BurgCast. Thanks for tuning in. This is Wartburg Sports Information Director Trent Jackson. So we're in full swing with the 2021 winter sports season, and the Sports Info office has been busy keeping up with all the updates coming our way, which is a good thing. We're happy and grateful to have games on the calendar. So it's been a while since we had an episode with the shorter than usual fall season and long winter break, but like I said, we're rolling right now with our winter schedule, so hopefully I can be a little more consistent with booking some guests so we can continue to hear the great stories of Wartburg athletics from our coaches and student athletes. Wartburg women's basketball has been fortunate to get 4 games in already, and they have a 4-0 record. So their head coach, Bob Amsberry, joined me for episode 13, and he shared some awesome stories from some of the team's NCAA tournament runs, some neat insight he's learned from other coaches, and his own journey as a coach, which I think is pretty cool. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks again for listening. All right, we're back on the BurgCast, and today I'm joined by Wartburg head women's basketball coach, Bob Amsberry. Thanks for your time today, Bob.
Yeah, it's great to be on.
Mm-hmm. So you're 4 games into your season here. Conference opener tomorrow. We're recording today on Friday, February 22nd. January. How'd start, Trent? You head to Lincoln tomorrow or today. Mm-hmm. Just tell me quick thoughts 4 games in to 2021.
Yeah, it's been, despite everything that's going on, we feel like we're in a really good place and pretty fortunate to be where we are and playing and together, and we're enjoying being around each other. And I think this the COVID era has gotten me to step back a little bit and just enjoy a little bit more maybe than I had in the past, the time we have together and the opportunities that we have. And obviously there's a lot of people that have put in tons of work to make it happen. And, so to have our team together and practicing since middle of October with no issues, really, no major issues, and to have 4 games in is pretty exciting.
Right.
And we're excited to open up conference play tomorrow.
Yeah. What's that approach kind of been like? I mean, we've already had plenty of schedule adjustments for next week, and I'm sure that'll be a fluid situation throughout the year. So do you kind of have to take it just a day at a time, really?
Yeah, really. And I remind our girls that that's the approach we always take anyway.
Right.
We're one day at a time, get better every day, face whatever obstacle jumps in front of us, and so that that doesn't really change our approach. And we remind each other that that's the way we always do it, and we'll be ready for whatever comes our way. And I'm sure there's going to be good, there's going to be bad, but we'll just continue to take steps forward and hopefully continue to get better.
As you head into the 8-game American Rivers Conference schedule tomorrow at Nebraska Wesleyan, just talk about the makeup of your team so far. What you think about some of the newcomers that have made an impact early, and trying to fill the pieces of a really good class of 2020 that graduated.
Yeah. First, the pieces that we lost were significant, and we had 5 seniors last year, and all played a good role, and but we also had 2 what I would consider special players, with Emma Gertis, who was 2-time league MVP, and Amanda Brainerd was 2-time first-team all-conference, and we had good pieces around them. And whenever you lose players of that caliber, especially in the same class, there's some uncertainty going into this year. And I give credit to my seniors this year coming in. They've been great leaders, providing a lot of direction for us and keeping us together in what's a harder year, quite frankly. And just the way they've led has been very pleasing to me. And you kind of touched on it. We have a great freshman class, and we've got 4 of them kind of in our rotation right now, and those that follow our program, it's pretty rare for a freshman to play. And typically we might have 1 or 2 maybe kind of get their feet wet as freshmen, and we've got some freshmen that are playing key roles for us. And I can talk about names if you want and go individually in on them, but it is a we've still got a lot of returning experience that knows what it takes to play at the level we want to play, and then a group of hungry freshmen that are learning quickly and really, really talented.
Yeah, good group of returners that experienced some of the success that you had over the past few years, and more in depth than that class of 2020. I mean, 4 straight conference regular season titles, 4 straight conference tournament titles, which was the first time to happen in our Iowa Conference women's basketball history. What do you think some of the returners have learned from that class?
Yeah, I think it's hard to get experience without going through it, and so those that have been through it kind of have to lead the way. And I'm thankful that we don't have to rely on our freshmen to necessarily play major role. They can play pretty freely and without a lot of pressure because we do have so much experience returning, and it allows them to kind of play freely, and we've seen some big games already from some of our freshmen, and I think a big part of that is they don't feel the pressure because our returners are kind of leading the way and kind of know what to do and how to approach things, and have allowed those new kids just to kind of settle in.
Mm-hmm. So as I touched on, at Nebraska Wesleyan tomorrow, and you'll play each conference team once. The maybe, I'm sure it is the most unique year that you've been in. And what do you think it's going to take for you, for the most successful, to be successful in conference play?
Yeah, I just think we need to stay consistent with our process, and we talk about that all the time. We always have, so that's not new to us. We don't take anything for granted. We make sure that we don't judge ourselves by the score of a game necessarily. It's are we doing things the right way? Are we defending the way we need to defend? Or are we moving the ball on offense, taking care of it, spacing? So all those things are adding up, and we have a long way to go. We can get much, much better, and so just especially the younger players, just understanding that a large margin victory doesn't necessarily mean that we're playing well, and if we're in a tight game or even drop a game, we're going to judge us more on how we perform rather than the result. And I think if you take that approach, you have an opportunity just to continue to grow and develop and get better, and that's what we're all about.
What was that first game back like against Edgewood after just such a long break and so much uncertainty? Hey, are we even going to have a season? Or are we just going to practice all year? Are we able to practice?
Yeah, we were kind of just kept the faith that we were going to play at some point, and I think it's a risk you take if you want to go through it and not knowing what the outcome will be, and I give our kids a lot of credit that they wanted to do it and be good, and so we prepared October, November, December without games, and that can get tedious, and it did get tedious, but we found ways to break it up a little bit, and with some inter-squad scrimmages, and we made those as game-like as possible, and that helped, but there's nothing like getting in that first game. And we hosted Edgewood, who was coming off, I think, a 25-3 season, NCAA tournament berth, and had about everybody back from that team. And so that on January 3rd was a big challenge for us. And, I felt like we defended at a pretty high level for our first game of the year to kind of scratch that win out. So, but it was great to be on the floor. It was a lot different with minimal fans in the stands and, a different setup. And, but to us, it's about preparing the right way, and then having the opportunity to compete against somebody else has been great.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we get into a bit about your background, I want to ask you quick about last March, before everything got canceled. We dropped a heartbreaker here to Whitman. Was there any, obviously you wanted to win, but was there any and then after that everything got shut down, was there any more of a closure there? Because obviously we all felt that you guys can make a run. It was such a great team.
Yeah, I felt like that team we had last year was as good as any team we've ever had. And but that's March. If you don't play well in March, you might get beat. And I give Whitman a lot of credit in that game. They did some things that to us that others hadn't done, and I don't think we responded real well. They definitely deserved to beat us that night. But it was disappointing the way we played, and I felt like we should have been able to beat that team, especially at home. That makes it hard, right? When you don't play, when you don't feel like you play your best and lose in a tight game in that situation. But after it was over and then the rest of the NCAA tournament got shut down, I felt like at least we got to close our season, and we didn't have it still open, and we'll always have to wonder.
We'd still be talking about it.
Yeah, you would always wonder. And our kids got closure that night, and they even talked about it. They came in that next week, and they said at least we got to lose, and as hard as it is to lose, at least we got to settle that on the floor. And to all those 16 teams on the women's side that didn't get to close their season, that's way harder than losing.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to know you a little more. Just tell me about where you grew up and just how you got into basketball.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in western Iowa, Dunlap, Iowa. I was active in every sport all season long. At a small school, that's what you do. You play everything. But basketball was always my love. It was I spent hours and hours and hours, sometimes by myself, just shooting baskets and in a small town, and I just loved the game, and I kind of developed that a lot of times by myself. It was just my way of existing. I'd go to the playground, and sometimes would strike up a game. Sometimes I was by myself, but it was I guess my happy place. Yeah. And then when I went to college, I didn't play in college, and I was a business major and was going to break out of education. Both parents were teachers. My older brother, my older sister were in education, and I was going to go into the business world and make money. And then when I graduated, I was like, it was missing. And I was fortunate to have an opportunity a couple years after I graduated to volunteer at a small school in Illinois, McMurray College, which is now closed. But that was my start, and my mentor was Don Mulhern. He's still one of my best friends to this day, and he gave me an opportunity that really changed my life. And it was over a lunch that was, we just showed up in the dining hall on campus one day and sat down with him. Had never met him, and by the end of lunch, I was volunteering. So
That's crazy.
And about a year into it, I decided that this is really where my passion was and what I wanted to do. So I took the next steps to move forward in the field.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, you're able to turn around a program at Rockford, and now fast forward, you're in year 15 here. I'm sure it's flown by.
Yeah, it's gone fast. My first head job was at Rockford College, and we were in the middle. When I took the job, 44 straight losses. My first year, we'd lost 26, or we were 25 in a row, and then my next season, my second season there, we lost the first game to get the streak to 70, which was an NCAA record at the time. So I hit the record books pretty early in my career. We hit the 70 straight losses, and then we won our second game my second year, and got that off the ground, got that program going, and it was a great experience for me. As a young coach, it was hard. It was certainly hard to go in and lose every day. But that's not what it was really about for me at that time. It was, I was really competitive, still am, but it was more about building the program, doing it the right way, getting the right people in there, and we were pretty fortunate to have some really good runs at Rockford, and I spent 9 years there, and great memories, great people, had some great teams. And then, as you said, now I've been here at Wartburg for 15, and Wartburg's a great place, and our program's in a really good state right now, and I've got great help around me with great assistance, and we're just fighting to keep it going.
Right. Yeah, so you're 15 here, and it's really been kind of a family gathering place for you. I mean, your kids grew up here, graduated or attending here. Your nephews on your coaching staff. Just tell me what that means to you.
Yeah, it's great. People talk about family when they talk about their programs, and we've been fortunate to have a lot of that. Not just me, but we've had a lot of sisters that have come through the program and played together, and but for me personally, my son Joe graduated from Wartburg and is now in Cedar Falls teaching 5th and 6th grade band, and had a great experience here. Still comes to most of our home games, and he gets one of my 2 passes usually in the COVID era, so it's great to have him coming back. Paige, my daughter, is a sophomore here at Wartburg, and she actually helps us out too in the program, and does some managing and keeping clock and helping us with practice. And then as you mentioned, my nephew Tyler is on staff, and this is his 6th season, and he's been with us and has learned and grown and has become a great coach. And I think he's got a great future in this profession as well. But to share a lot of special moments with family and in this profession has been pretty special.
Mm-hmm. Over the years, maybe it's the challenge of moving on here to Wartburg, and in your first couple of years here, what was that learning curve like, and what have you learned from some of the great veteran coaches that we have on staff here who have even been here longer than you?
Yeah, when I first got here, I really knew before I got here that just the success of the athletic department as a whole was pretty attractive to me. And one of the things I looked at when I started looking for jobs is what's the longevity of the coaching staff at the institution. And Wartburg had coaches that had been here, what I'll say, forever. Yeah. They weren't forever, but for a long, long time. And that just tells me that they were successful and they're staying. So that tells me it must be a pretty good place. So I had that kind of notion coming in, and then when you get here and just get involved in it, it's even more special than maybe what it appears to be. But I've learned a lot. I lean on a lot of veteran coaches, certainly Coach Willis and the success he's had with the football program and being our AD and leading our department. And, you can always pick his brain about what it takes to be successful. And, but Marcus Newsom was someone that I connected with fairly early, just to talk about, they were winning national titles and, to talk about culture and to observe some of the things they do and what can I take from them to bring into my program. And then at one point, I don't remember the years, it'd been probably 6 or 7 years ago, I met with Coach Jim Miller when he was still here as our wrestling coach and obviously the success of their program. But I went into his office one day and said, Coach, I'm going to win a national title here. And he kind of looked at me and he said, well, let's do it. And, will we ever do that? I don't know. But that's kind of the vision that we have thrown out ahead of us. And so he challenged me to think a little bit differently. And one thing he said that I'll never forget, and I've shared it with every team I've had since then, is he said, you don't win a championship and then start acting like champions. You start acting like a champion, and then you got a chance to win a championship. And it just got me to think about really how we do everything. How do we practice? How do we go to the weight room? How do we conduct ourselves on and off the court? How do we challenge each other? How do we hold each other accountable? And it just got me to start thinking about, well, what would a championship team do? And a lot of times that answers a lot of questions. But you don't know if you've never done it. You don't know how a championship team would do it. So you observe and you learn and you talk to people, and I've certainly leaned on those guys a lot.
Yeah, as we were walking over here this morning, we were chatting about some of the older days. Tell me about some of your fondest memories from maybe your first few years here, whether it's, if you can tell us a little bit more about Knight's Gym or some of the things that you learned, those years that you look back and maybe kind of laugh on or what have you.
Yeah, so my first, when I interviewed here, Old Knight's Gym was a pile of rubble. So it was being torn down, and I saw the plans for the new facility. But my first year, we didn't have a facility on campus, and so we would practice over at Denver High School, sometimes in their middle school, where the out of bounds line was literally 1.5 feet away from the brick wall. But that's what we did. Yeah. And some of my best memories were loading up the vans every day and driving over there and just being around our team, driving over to practice and then driving back from practice and spending time together. And it was tedious to do that every single day to go to practice, but it was also a time to get to know those kids a little bit better, and we have good memories from those van rides.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to end off with these little quick hitter questions, and you might have already given one of them with that great advice from Coach Miller, but I always like to ask, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Yeah, the other one I can, there's so many, but right. The other one that really jumps out at me is my mentor, Don Mulhern, who gave me my first opportunity. Talked to me a lot about just enjoying the process and don't lose the love for it when you're in the middle of it. And it's hard to do, because you're always in prep mode. You're always evaluating your team. You're watching film. You're trying to get better. And, he told me to never lose the joy of just being there.
Right.
I think there's instances where I can look back and I didn't have it. It was there, but you weren't maybe like you weren't looking around and enjoying it while it was going on as much. And so in the first time we went to the Final Four, it was that's where I was. I wasn't like really enjoying that whole run. It was great and great memories, but it was more about what's next. And I mean, I did enjoy it, and we had a great time, and our team was loose. And part of it, I think we did it the right way. The other part of it, I was more in coach mode.
Yeah.
And so then in our second Final Four run, I started the season kind of that same way. Just we had returned everybody from the year before. We had been a year removed from our first Final Four, and we had gotten upset that next year in the first round. But we had everybody back from a 25-3 team, and I knew going into every game that we were favored. And there was a little bit of pressure that I put on myself we got to win this one, and we won them. And we were undefeated going into the Final Four, but that season I probably made the mistake too a little bit about not enjoying it as much as maybe I would now.
Yeah.
And that's great advice. It's really hard to not be in that mode.
Yeah.
But this year, I think, has made me step back and just really cherish the times that we're together in the gym together, because you never know from day to day what's tomorrow going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this is a hard one, just because I think, well, obviously you've had so many great teams, great games, but do you have one, fondest favorite memory from Wartburg that stands out? Maybe it's more of a, funny story, but maybe there's one game at the top of your list.
Well, certainly that first Final Four run, we kind of came out of nowhere in most people's minds. We finished third in our league that year, and we had gotten beat in the conference tournament in the first round, I think. Yeah, we got beat by Co at home on a Tuesday. And I knew we had a good resume, but I didn't know if it was good enough. And so our winter break was coming up that next week. Bids were coming out on Monday. I had two girls that were joining the softball team that weekend in Florida. And I didn't want to hold them back just because I didn't know that we were going to get in, but
right.
We had a discussion about there's a chance, and I don't think our players believed me that there was a chance, but I had done the numbers, and I knew, we had some huge wins that year, and so I thought we might have had a chance. So we actually got the bid on Monday, and Katie and Christy Summer were with the softball team in Florida, and they were in the middle of a game, and I called their mom, and their mom was at the game, and Katie I think she had gotten a hit and scored a run in the first inning. And then in the bottom of the inning, I called Lisa, their mom, and they pulled them out of the softball game and got them on a plane and got them back up here. And I think they got here for Wednesday practice, and then we made a run. And 2 weekends we were in the Final Four. So that was a whirlwind. The other kind of cool thing about that story is Kaylee Cladovo was a high jumper on our track team, and they had indoor conference meet on Saturday after we got beat. So she, I think she broke the conference indoor record maybe, and qualified for nationals on basically no practices, and she had joined them after we got beat on Tuesday, and then we get the bid on Monday, and so she flipped back to the basketball team, and we made that run, and that made it, I guess, a little extra special that A lot of people had kind of thought the season was over, and then we got new life, and that group took it, and they said, we got a chance. And one thing about that group is they were so confident that they thought they could beat anybody, and that's why we did.
So we touched on a little bit before about maybe what you wanted to do after college, but if you weren't a basketball coach, what profession do you think you'd be in?
I have no idea. I really don't. I've told this to people though. Something in me, like, I always felt like I should write children's books.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know why I think that. I do think I relate and connect well with really, really young children, like 2-3-year-olds. And I've always kind of felt like in the back of my mind, maybe in another life, that I should be writing children's books.
Okay. Maybe we can get on. I can try and help with like the illustration.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see. All right, Coach. Thanks again for joining me, and good luck tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the BurgCast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do us a favor with a retweet at Wartburg Knights on Twitter or a share on Facebook. Check out the official Wartburg Athletics website at go-knights.net for all the up-to-date news and information, where you'll also find the latest podcast posted.